Okay, so this is obviously starting all the way back from chapter 1. And we feel good, Can you explain the function of the motherboard chipset? Wait, we're not looking at this year. That's multiple years. Let's make sure we just pull you guys, because we should only have 4, shouldn't we? Explain the we still have one person that said, okay, so the function of the motherboard chipset is to control the flow of information to the CPU. Okay, it controls the flow and the speed of the information on the 2 buses from the north bus or the south bus, controlled by the north bridge, south bridge, north chipset, south chipset that are on the motherboard. On the north chipset, which is faster and has more information flowing through it, gets hotter, has a bigger heat sink, we have the primary video card and RAM on its own bus going to the motherboard, and on the south bridge, south chipset controls all the other flow of everything else going to the motherboard. And again, we know this, that everything has to be connected to the motherboard to talk and be part of this PC. If it's not connected to the motherboard, it's not on a bridge. If it's not on a bridge, it's not part of the chipset. Chipset doesn't control the flow of information, and nothing gets from that part to the CPU. All those buses, the whole point of those buses is to get the information to the CPU. One of the questions you had on the last test was, where do the buses terminate? All the buses terminate at the CPU. Okay. The point of the chipset is to control the flow of information to the CPU. Okay. Any questions on that one? No. Can I explain what CMOS RAM and CMOS are? Okay. So let's make sure we understand that. And I'm going to open up our page here. So we've got a common misconception. Okay. So first of all, the program that controls the startup and the power on self-test is called BIOS. Okay, so I've got a program called BIOS. It's the first program that runs, and it controls the startup. That program sits. Hello. I just lost my pen. Completely. What just happened? Light went off and everything. I don't know what just happened. Let's recalibrate. Maybe it's this pen. Where's my other pen? Let me try my other pen. What's the pen? Oh, I have 2 out here anyway. Okay. So it sits or is held in what? CMOS what? No, absolutely not. Okay. The program is in ROM. The program itself is in read-only memory. The BIOS, the program, is in CMOS ROM so that it never goes away no matter what. If BIOS went away, our motherboard can just be thrown in the trash. Okay. If we lost the BIOS program, so it has to be in a place where it doesn't ever get lost if we pull the battery or anything out of our computer. Which is why if you ever need to program this, which you can update your BIOS, it's a process called flashing it, and it rewrites the ROM, and it's a slow process because ROM is slow. If you lose power or it gets interrupted while you're doing that, your computer is gone. Okay, which is why it says, caution, do not do this unless vitally necessary. They have all kinds of different warnings when flashing a ROM. It's frequently required for updates. We have a computer that we were working on yesterday that when we put in a 3 terabyte hard drive, it didn't know what it was because it can't understand what a hard drive is above 2 terabytes. Because when that BIOS came out, that was the biggest hard drive. So that's why you might update the ROM so the BIOS can recognize new components. So just like that one's gone, the computers that you guys have been working on, we had to update the BIOS program on that so that it would recognize larger RAM modules. Okay, so it didn't recognize the old RAM or the new RAM. Okay, so that's where BIOS sits. Now the configuration, I'm going to change colors. The configuration data that we set in BIOS is held where? That's what's held in CMOS RAM. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing with that letter. Because that is something we change anytime we want to. We want to change the boot order. We want to change whether it even reads the CD-ROM. We want to change whether the Wi-Fi switch on the side of your E6500 actually does anything or not. Because we don't want it to, because boneheads turn it off all the time, and then they go, oh, I can't get on the internet. So this switch right here that's currently off on his does nothing, because we disabled that in BIOS. But that's saved in CMOS RAM, so it's easily changeable. It's held there by our CMOS battery, and the whole purpose of this CMOS battery is to hold the configuration that we set in CMOS RAM. Okay? So ROM is where BIOS is stored. RAM is where the configuration and the changes that we made in BIOS are stored. If we lose our CMOS battery, we'll get things on the screen when we boot up our computer, like it'll say date and time not set. Some of them say battery low. There's different warnings for different BIOSes on what we get when this goes bad, but we always lose our configuration. Okay? And we have frequently students, somebody will bring in a laptop and they'll, see, this BIOS isn't set. They'll reset their BIOS. Well, how did it get out of here without the BIOS being set? Obviously, the BIOS was set. So the first thing I should say is I need a new CMOS battery, because if you bring in your laptop and I reset BIOS, it's just going to go out again as soon as you don't. Basically, this battery and laptop power will keep the information there. But as soon as you pull that battery and it's off, you're going to lose the configuration. It's not going to work again. Okay. Any questions on that? Okay. And scrolling down, I do have every chapter in here, right? Okay. Just didn't feel like I'm down far. Okay. What is a device driver and what does it do? Okay. So what is a device driver?
It's software that runs hardware.
Okay, it's software. It's software that makes the computer understand what hardware is and how to use it. Okay? So I can look at the device drivers on my computer. I can't do it that way because it never works on this one that way. If I go to the device manager on my computer, all of these things work because there's no yellow asterisk next to them. And you probably have something on your computer that has a yellow asterisk. There's some PCI device that isn't set. But if I go, for instance, to this disk drive, it says I've got a Kingston disk drive, and I'm going to double click on that. And there's a driver down here, and in this case it's a Microsoft driver, but this driver is a little program that tells Windows 10 how to use this Kingston solid state drive. And if I delete the driver, if I uninstall that driver, all of a sudden the drive won't work anymore. Did I break the drive? No, the drive works fine. Physically, all the components in your machine can work wonderfully, but if it doesn't have the driver that tells it how to use it, then it can't use it at all. It'll say that it found it, and it'll have a yellow asterisk here usually. Sometimes it says unknown device. Sometimes it knows exactly what it is. But if it doesn't have the right driver, it doesn't know how to use it. Here, I'm going to remote to another machine real fast. And I didn't spell it right, so I'm going to have to remote to another machine. This is that machine back over there that I'm remoting to, but I can't put it on the screen if I don't remote it to it. So I wonder if Windows pause break works when I go to that machine from this machine. No, something about this wireless keyboard that it doesn't work right. Oh, that's interesting. What in the world is that? Now I'm on remote. I don't need to be. Oh, I'm still on it. I don't need to be on remote. Let's try that again. Wow, that's weird. Look at that, Garrett. You ever seen that before?
What is it?
That's my taskbar. When I right-click my taskbar, when I remoted to that machine over there. Let's see. Maybe I'll just try a device.
You restart it.
Huh? I don't want to restart it. It's doing something. There we go. Go to control panel. If you go to your control panel, one of the options that you have in control panel is, wow, it's acting wonky on me right now. What in the world is it doing? I should be seeing all my control panel stuff right now. And I'm seeing nothing. I guess I got nothing that I need to have open on there. Here, I'm going to try that one. Nope. Well,
I think you need to restart it.
I am. I actually am. I just hope I'm restarting the one I think I'm restarting. Oh, I can't do it that way. Windows R. Yeah, I'm not. Oh, shut down that one. That one's going to restart and reboot right now. We'll go back to this one. Okay, so anyways, we can easily update drivers from the Microsoft website anytime we want to, right here from the device manager. If we want to update, for instance, this driver, I can just click the update driver button and I can say search automatically for Windows Update. It's going to go to Microsoft. It's going to look to see if there's an updated driver. It's going to download it and it's going to install it automatically. Okay, that's the easy way, and it says, hey, it's already up to date on there. However, some drivers, like our display drivers, I've got this GeForce 560 GTI. I'm going to right click and go to properties on that one. I can go to drivers on there and I can say update driver here, but really this is not the best driver anyway. In some cases, the best driver, the best program I can find is the one from the manufacturer itself, which would be NVIDIA. And I actually have the NVIDIA control thing, I think, running down here, and it can let me see if there's actually an update for the video card, because this only knows what updates Microsoft knows about. It doesn't know any other update. I don't have this installed. I'm not going to do it right now because we don't have time to update it. But I could download the driver from the manufacturer and install it, and it would put the more current driver on there. Okay, so drivers are just small programs. Sometimes they're big. That makes hardware work. Frequently, when people install printers, it'll see the printer, but it's the driver that doesn't work. So if I go to control panel and I say I want to install a printer, that's like we had a student come in the other day, can you install my printer real fast? I've got to get on the bus in 1 minute. I'm like, no. Now, could I try to install it in 1 minute? Sure, but it's going to have to go out and find the device drivers. So when you go and try to go to devices and printers and you go try to add a printer, one of the things it has to do is it goes to that printer on most new printers and it downloads the driver from a ROM chip on the printer to install on your computer. Sometimes it has to go out to the internet to do it, but in either case it has to have the driver in order for the printer to work. Did I answer the question? Okay. So, next thing, can you explain the boot steps? That is a whole list that you're going to have to go. I could spend far too long. We wouldn't even get to the other sections. This can't be the whole thing. This is only chapter 1. This is only chapter 1. So I didn't get all the chapters in here like I thought I did. I thought I imported all the questions.
There was a lot more on the questions that you gave us.
Is there?
Yeah.
Okay, well maybe there's a page 2 at the bottom or something. Are there any?
Did you click chapter 1?
Huh? It's just. Oh, well, maybe I did. I don't know. Here, we'll just keep going through them and see if we can get the other ones. Okay. So the boot steps. That basically. There's a page right on our thing. That you guys should have that on your notes. So, but I'm asking, do you know when I push the power button, what's the first thing that happens? What's the first thing that happens?
BIOS starts up. It goes to BIOS. It says wake up.
No, it doesn't. What's the first thing that happens?
The power.
It has a power check, right? The motherboard does it, talks to the power supply, and the power supply has to send back a good power signal before it will do anything else. If it didn't get a good power signal, the motherboard does nothing. Okay? And when it goes to BIOS, then that's when it does, the first thing it does is a power on self check, and it checks the rest of the components, and it basically does an inventory of those components. And then it goes to BIOS and looks for our boot order. and it checks the boot order, and it starts going through those looking for a bootable device. Then when it finds the bootable device, it starts the boot from that device, and then it hands off control of the computer. That whole list of things is on one of the links in chapter 1 or chapter 2. And that specific order should be in your notes. So I guess that took me through chapter 2. I guess it kind of melded together there, didn't it? I can define a volt amp. Okay, so volt is what? Starts with a P. Voltage is the potential. Okay, remember voltage is the potential for current. And in my analogy that I did back in chapter 3, the voltage is the one that I said it's like the size of the pipe when you're talking about water in your house. It doesn't, just because the pipe is big doesn't mean there's a lot of water going through it. It doesn't mean any water is going through it. It's how much potential there is for water to go through it. So voltage is the potential of an electrical circuit. Amp is the current. Amp is current of electricity. And I think I said, if I didn't, I'll say it now, it's not the volts that kill you, it's the amps. It doesn't matter what the potential is. You can have a 110 volt kill you, and you can have a 2,000 volts not even bother you, okay? If there's no amperage behind it, okay? Amperage is the current that's actually flowing, and the wattage is the total power, which is found by doing volts times amps equals watts, okay? So potential times actual current equals actual power output of any circuit. And when we talked about electrical components, you should know what the various potentials are, and then given either the current or the power, you should be able to find the other one, because it's just a basic multiplication. If I said you had a hard drive pulling 5 amps of power, 5 amps, how much total power is it? And the answer is what? I didn't tell you that. I said you've got a hard drive pulling 5 amps. How much power is it pulling? And the answer is 60 watts, because we know it's a 12 volt connector. I just told you it was 5 amps, and 5 times 12 equals 60, and it'd be a 60 watt power drive, okay? So that's the basic understanding of that. I can define AC versus DC. AC stands for alternating current. Our power outlet here alternates at 60 hertz. Alternates at 60 hertz. If that's not in your notes, it should be. I don't know why you don't have a notepad up. Or you? Oh, you do. Okay, it's on your own. Okay. So AC cycles at 60 hertz or 60 cycles per second, and it's the most efficient way of transferring electrical power over long distances, which is why all of our electrical outlets are AC. Now, we have 110 or 115, I don't know, 110 along our wall circuit. I always say 115 because that's what's on the back of the power supply. But so we've got 110 on our wall circuit. Is that what's the voltage that's out on your line that goes by your house? No, it's not at all. And that's why they say when electrical power line is down, move away immediately from it. It's much higher voltage, much higher amperage there. What is it that turns it into 110 for our house? A transformer. There's a transformer somewhere out on a power pole or sometimes in a box near your home that turns some higher voltage into a lower voltage, and that's what a transformer does. A transformer lowers the voltage to some other voltage, okay? So we've got AC running around at who knows what voltage. It gets lowered down to our household 110 by a transformer, and then it gets turned into DC by what? Do you remember what that device is called?
Direction.
By a rectifier. Okay, transformer lowers voltage. Rectifiers change it from AC to DC. DC stands for direct current, and direct current is the best kind of current for electrical devices, which is why virtually everything you use in your home, that's an electronic device, probably runs off DC. That's what these do, okay? This is actually a transformer rectifier. It both rectifies it to DC, and it transforms it to whatever voltage an iPad actually charges off of. I couldn't even tell you. Probably says someplace in little tiny letters, but I can't read it, okay? So this turns AC to DC. It's a rectifier, but it also is a transformer. It turns it to whatever voltage is that comes out. I know it's, I think, or at least I think it's 2 amps that comes out on that. But so that's the difference between AC and DC. And we know our power supply gives us basically 3 different voltages coming out. We've got 3.3, 12, and 5 volts coming out of our power supply on different cables, okay? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, I can explain the speeds of the motherboard relative to the CPU. This is really a discussion, and really on these last few, probably some of them are Chapter 4B, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about this anyway because it's important that you understand, okay? So our motherboard has a bus speed, okay? There is some speed that information moves around the bus, and I said during the PowerPoint project that in general, the front side bus is synchronized with the memory, okay? So the basic way I said that when I said give me the front side bus speed, that the best way I like to look at it is the highest non-OC speed as kind of that's the speed of that motherboard. So if I've got a motherboard that says it's 3200 OC, comma 2800, comma 2100, blah 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 blah, then I'm basically saying that in my opinion, when I compare that, I'm saying it moves at 2800 megahertz. But realistically, when I overclock it, no matter what memory I put in, it's going to go at the speed of the memory that I put in that. That's going to be the speed of the front side bus. So let's talk about the computer that Mr. Anderson is building right over there. Okay, what's the speed of our memory that we're putting in that right now?
2400.
Okay, so we've got 2400 megahertz DDR4, right? It's DDR4, I'm assuming. DDR4 RAM that's going in there. We're putting 128 gig of 2400 megahertz DDR4 RAM. That's the speed that the information now, when it syncs up in that motherboard, can move around the motherboard. But that is not the speed of the CPU. Okay? So we've got a motherboard front side bus of that speed. And then CPUs, I don't even know how I got a CCU. There we go. CPUs have a different speed. And in this case, I don't even, where's my box? Okay? So I've got this 20-core i7 Extreme processor that we're putting in here, and I don't even know off the top of my head. What does it say on here? What my speeds are in many different languages. Do I have it on here? Okay.
Clock speed?
Yeah, clock speed. Just 3 even? Okay.
Whatever.
So I've got a 3 gigahertz, and CPUs are rated in gigahertz, but realistically that's also 3000 megahertz speed, okay? So in the case of this motherboard, this is really, really close. Really, really close. That may not be the case on your motherboard. It's certainly not the case on the computer that I'm actually using right here. But the information moves this fast and the CPU works this fast. And this ratio is called how much of a bottleneck exists. And a bottleneck is called a bottleneck because you have a bottle and then you have flow coming out like that. How much of a bottleneck is there between the front side bus and the CPU? And in this case, it's very, very low. I'm going to run Specky on my machine and show you that this machine actually is pretty high, I think. Oh, right, I just saw it, and then okay. So if I look at the actual machine that I'm on, the CPU that I'm on is 3 gigahertz, okay? So roughly the same speed as the processor over there, although not nearly the same capabilities as the processor over there. But my RAM, it's not, why is it saying 533? Well, I know what it is. It's 1330. Is that 1033 or 13? It's 1333. Okay. So in the case of this PC, my front side bus is running at 1333 megahertz, and you can see memory is always given in megahertz, but the CPU is in 3.1 gigahertz, which then equals 3100 megahertz. And you can see the bottleneck, it's almost 3 to 1. Okay, the CPU is almost 3 times faster than the front side bus. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about the ratio, the comparison between the two. I've got a bottleneck. I've got a much faster CPU than I have the ability to get information to the CPU. Whereas in that machine, it's almost, and you're never gonna, well, you could, if we put a crappy CPU in there, we could actually put a CPU. We could buy a 2.4 gigahertz CPU and it'd be exactly the same. But this is about as close as you want it. Obviously, you always want your CPU faster than your motherboard. Because if it wasn't any faster than the motherboard, then now the motherboard's waiting for the CPU as opposed to the other way around. In the case of my computer, when things are laggy, it's not because the CPU is slow, it's because the information isn't getting to the CPU as fast. Okay? And that's the case in yours as well. Yours has got DDR2 RAM in it. I think it's all DDR2 800. Okay? So in the case of your guys' laptops, and I'm going off the top of my head, but I think your speed on your memory is 800 megahertz, and aren't they 2.4? So and your speed of your processor are 2400 megahertz. So you've got a solid 3-time difference, which is really pretty much close to what I've got. I've almost got a 3 times difference there. So that's what it's talking about there. The difference speeds of the motherboard relative to the CPU. The higher that ratio difference, the more of a bottleneck you have, and you'd like to minimize that bottleneck for the best performing PC that you could build. Okay.
Boy.
Any questions on that? Did you just drop your iPad?
Maybe. It's all good.
Okay. It's all good until it breaks. Okay. I can explain. Matt, you just said you could do that. I can use BIOS to configure the CMOS. Hopefully you guys can do that. And I'm not, obviously this is not one of those ones that I can go out and give you, hey, go log on. Well, I could. I guess I could say log on to this and set it in this order, and then I could reset the order on each one of you guys as we did that. Maybe I should do that sometime. I could make that a question, like an essay question, and then whenever you get to, you come over here and then I reset the BIOS and you come into BIOS and reset it. That would be actually an easy question to do. I might do that. But anyway, so the fact of the matter is you need to know how to get into BIOS. How do I get into BIOS? What are the 3 keys that most normally get you into BIOS?
F2, F1, and delete.
And delete, right? F2, F1, and delete. Almost all Dells use F2 to get into BIOS. I'm not going to say all. I'm sure there's at least one out there that doesn't, but I haven't come across it. So on most of the machines that we've got here, if it's a Dell, I just start hitting F2. Okay? This one, that's a Dell too. The new motherboard that he's building is delete key. Is this one different?
I think so.
For some reason I remember that too. That's why I almost thought it was an HP. The delete key is how you get into it on the motherboard that he's building right there. Sometimes it's F1. There's only one other key that I've ever had to hit, and that's F10. On HP machines, frequently it's the F10 key. Why did they go so far away from what everybody else used? I have no idea.
Those are the ones I use at home, so that's why I was confused.
Yeah. F10 frequently gets you in, and are the only ones I've ever seen that with is HPs. Everything else is usually delete F1 or F2. And once I get in there, I can go and set things like the boot order, which is the most prevalent thing. You can turn on and turn off things in the boot order. You can reconfigure your boot order. Obviously, the fastest booting computer, the boot order is going to say hard drive number 1. If you want your computer to boot faster, why would you have it look the CD-ROM or the network card or the USB? I tell you, there's a delay for all those things while it's looking for it. So you need to know that you can change that boot order. Here at Trail, in general, we set the CD-ROM, then the network card, and then the hard drive. It doesn't really affect teachers because we also have them auto start before they come in the morning. So yes, it takes it probably 5 seconds longer to boot. Yeah, that's not a big deal, right? 5 seconds. But it would boot 5 seconds faster if we just had to go right to the hard drive. But then you'd have to go into BIOS every time you wanted to do a memory check or a hard drive check, or I wanted to re-image something. So that's why we set them in the order that we do. Your guys' laptops are all set to go hard drive and then network card, because the only time we go to the network card is when we're redoing them in here, and then we hit F12, which the F12 key for most computers lets you go straight to a boot order screen. But then I hit F12 and it goes, what do you want to boot from? And it just asks you manually, and you can go, oh, I want to boot from the CD-ROM and hit enter, or I want to boot from the network card and hit enter. Other BIOS settings that are advanced BIOS settings, which we have done here at Trail on, well, the machine's back in the closet right now. That's where you overclock. That's where you can go in and say, in this particular machine that we just pulled, that he's building a new machine into, this one right here is a, where's it at now?
It's on that cart.
Yeah, it's just sitting out now on a cart?
It's on the cart.
Man. Okay, so this machine right here that shouldn't be treated so
Poorly, all right.
poorly, yeah, okay, poorly. Okay, so this is an ICE i7. It's got what do we got? 24 gig of RAM in this one. These are 4 gig sticks. So it's 8 gig sticks. So I got 24 gig of RAM in here. It's an i7, but it's only a 2.4 gig i7. So we and then what was it?
2.8.
And we overclocked it to 3.4. Okay, couldn't remember. We did it a while back. So you can go into the BIOS and you can push. If the BIOS lets you, you can go and push those things harder. If you do it wrong, it's going to blue screen all the time. That's why I don't overclock a lot. Okay, but we actually Googled it and we found all the settings that somebody else had tried. We set them all up and it worked just fine for I don't know, a year. And it worked overclock at 3.4 just fine. If you overclock through BIOS, it's going to run hotter, which is why you want to have a better CPU fan. I would never overclock with the stock fan that comes with the CPU. Now that i7 is a high enough end i7 that they don't even send you a stock fan with that one. They're like, you know what? If you're gonna put this nice of a processor in, you find a nice CPU. But here's a stock fan that came with the processor's gone. But there's a stock fan that came with this one, just like the ones you guys use. You wouldn't overclock with a stock fan. This just would not keep it cool like you need it to, and this one's going to do a much better job of keeping it cool. So, as far as using BIOS, do you guys want to play with BIOS or something, or what? I don't know who said what on this one. Do you have specific questions that you're like, I don't understand this or something?
At the end of mine, I just go over BIOS and do electricity again. I don't have them in front of my notes; they're all lost in there. So I just wanted to make sure I had them.
Okay. So do you have a question in general?
No,
Okay.
I got it.
BIOS is also where we not only set the boot order, but we set the boot order of specific things. Like, for instance, we've got servers that have multiple hard drives in them. So you might have all 3 of these drives. In fact, I do in this PC. I've got 3 drives in there. There's a spot in BIOS you may say boot from the hard drive first. There's another spot that says what hard drive, and you can select that I want SATA cable 2 to be first, which would be crazy, but I like to do it in the order that I'm going to use it. So SATA 1 or SATA 0 has my OS drive, and then my other ones are on the other SATAs. Doesn't mean you have to. You could plug in, if this has your operating system, you can plug it in on any SATA you want to. Just have to make sure you go into BIOS and say SATA 7 is first. And you can set the order that it goes through the SATAs as it looks for the operating system too. And we haven't done that. I just want you to know that exists. On every BIOS I've ever looked at, you can select the hard drive bin order as well. Besides overclocking, and when you overclock, there are very specific settings. Not like you go, I want to go at 3.4 and there's just a knob that you turn up, right? You have to say the frequency that the memory is now going to work at. There are a lot of settings in the overclocking, and if we have time at the end, I can even Google and we can show you. And wasn't that a video that showed all the overclocking settings that we did on this one when we used that one, or is it just screen captures?
It's just screenshot.
But I can show you. There's a lot of settings when it comes to overclocking that you have to get right. Okay. Now we don't need to worry about L1, L2, and L3 cache. That's next semester. Next semester. It should have been on this one. And the same thing with the CPU manufacturer stuff. Those things at the end, I think all these are really the stuff that we normally would get to that we didn't get to. And that one we've talked about. It's really part of chapter 1. So these two things really are the only two things, plus the cache that we're going to cover. So the CPU section is really short. I just didn't want to just try to cram it in at the end and put it in first semester. It's okay if we went to second semester. I thought he said that he fixed that. Didn't he say the Splendid demo thing? He closed that work order? Is something somebody did on the monitor? You don't know what I'm talking about. I'll have to call Mr. Studebaker. Okay, so that's those are the ICANNs, but obviously you could have questions that aren't covered in there. Are there anything that you're like, okay, I don't remember how to do that anymore. For instance, let's go to a for instance that gets people on the exam. Okay, and that would be the power supply calculations. Obviously, you're going to have to do one of those or a couple of those on the exam. And if you didn't do well on the Chapter 3 exam, that's one of those things that you need to make sure that you've got down. Let's see. I don't know which one is the right power chart. I need to go through and delete the other ones. This is old. This is definitely an old one because that one has Pentium 3s on it. So let's go ahead and delete that one. Look how old that one is, Garrett. That's when I had Pentium 3 processors and okay, I'm going to delete that one. Yes, permanently delete. Let's see if this one's the one that we used. Nope.
Pentium 3 too.
I've got to have it in here on one of them. Let's see.
That's the one.
Is
Because
that
you
the
just
one?
say processor.
Delete. No. The one I used had how many cores? It had. That's not the right one either.
Well, that's the one you used for our class.
Yeah, but we did a whole new one since then. You know what? I'm going to open up the Chapter 3 since I just said that's one of the gotcha ones. Let me go back to Chapter 3, and I need to add computing power. Let's see if I can find the chart. I obviously need to move that over there to Chapter 3. I'm going to delete that other one.
If you go to PC power supply calculations, you have it right there.
What?
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if you pulled it up yet.
Unlock. Yeah, okay, so this is the one. I just need to get it into my thing right. Contents. Chapter 3, pictures. Or is this not a picture? Is that why I'm having... You know what? I'm going to turn it into a picture. Put it over there. You know what? That's not even... I drag that? Get out of here. Go. How do I get this? I want to drag this wider, but I can't. And that's just going to make it bigger. That's not going to do it at all. What did I just do? Why can't I edit this? I'm going crazy. Okay, now I'm on the thing. There we go. Is there anything on there before I take a picture and move it that I have changed? Is that the same one that you've got that's on the page you're looking at?
Here, pull it back up.
Hard drive, floppy drive, other expansion cards, USB per device, extra cooling fans. Yeah, I'm going to use that one and take a picture of that one and move it to my thing here.
That's the same one.
Does that look like the same one?
Yeah, it's the same one.
I should be able to then drag this in here. And wait, this one, that one's ridiculous. Okay, so sorry, I apologize for my delay there, but let's see if I can shrink it down so it fits on the page. So we need to be able to still make sure we can go through and do these calculations like we did when we were in chapter 3, because you're definitely going to have one of those. You need to make sure you read or Google whether, what are you showing?
I was telling how cold it was this morning in Israel.
-4.
Absolutely nothing to do with what we're talking about. Okay, so I've got on here single core, dual core, quad core, and I've got 6 or more cores. Is that, I'm just kind of curious if that aligns with, or does this even have anything saying how many watts and how holes in there?
140?
Is that what it says? Well, good. That's what, because I said 6 or more cores, 150, so 140 would be, that would be great. And then on this one, it's got video card basic or integrated, can hold 30 for that. But I thought I changed it to just say basic was part of the motherboard, and then, or I mean integrated was part of the motherboard. I thought I took off that or integrated. Just read the one that I put on the test. I have to look at that one. I thought I took that off. And then video card gamer, that's really low. 120 is really low. What does yours require? Do you remember what that video card requires? You've got sitting over there?
Like 400 or
Yeah.
400.
400?
It recommends over.
Oh, the power supply.
I don't know what it requires.
What it requires. So you have to look at the specific video card, but I'm throwing a generic number into there, 120, and then the per sticks, and you have to go and calculate that out. So when I go and calculate that out, let's say I got that it's 305. So what are the things I'm going to ask you? Do you remember the 2 things I'm going to ask you?
Recommended.
Okay, so I've got a minimum and I've got a recommended. What would my minimum be?
350.
Be 350 because I just round up to the next 50, and recommended would be 400. Okay, so everybody's got that as well. I just want to, those are one of the ones that people have a tendency to miss. Make sure you're reading stuff, and you can Google anything you want to while you're doing it. But I had on the last test that I just gave well, with you guys, that there were some true-false questions that weren't intended to be hard. You guys got wrong. They were the exact true statement, and then you put false. So you're trying to trick me? Okay, so read it and actually think about it. Don't just think, Mr. Poole must be trying to trick me, thus it's false. That's not the way you work your way through a question, okay? Just don't make an assumption that I'm mean or something, and that's why I figure out the answer. Okay, I'm going to go back here to the chapters themselves.
Beginning consideration of this one.
Anything on any of the chapters you guys want to talk about? I mean, obviously, that was the whole reason I did the other thing, is so we could go through each of the ICANNs. Nope, everybody feels good. Your guys' test is Tuesday. You guys have the very second to last
Do we
exam.
come to school next Wednesday or not?
No.
Wednesday?
Yeah.
No. We go home.
That's what I was wondering.
Why would we be here Wednesday?
I didn't know if that was the first, like the last day of exams or the.
Yeah, Tuesday's last day.
Tuesday's last day.
I didn't.
So
that's what I didn't-
Friday is your Brown 2 through
Oh, so we
4s.
start exams Friday.
We start exam Friday. Friday is Brown 2, which I think is an awesome exam schedule, because then you have all weekend to study for the next one. So you know, I know you guys are seniors and you're probably not over stressing yourself. Ian, however, is not. He should be studying for his. So Friday you have Brown 2, 3, and 4. You get all weekend to study for Orange 2, 3, and 4 Monday, and then you only have 2 exams to refresh yourself
Just
on
take yours
Tuesday.
I
Friday.
thought it was Thursday. I think we start exam.
What?
I thought we start exam on Thursday.
No, we do not. Exam schedule is Friday is Brown 2, 3, and 4. Monday is Orange 2, 3, and 4. And Tuesday is Brown 1 and then Orange 1.
We got normal schedules, so like block schedules.
Yes.
Okay.
So first block on Friday, you guys basically have study time. I'm not going to present anything, although I'll answer any questions that you guys have on Friday if you guys have questions. But I'm not going to have a lesson or anything else on Friday. I know some people do their review then if they're in Brown 1, but that doesn't make any sense to me because you guys are going to have 3 exams in a row right after that. That's why I don't do anything. I don't want you to leave here with a hot head and then go take exams. And you just have study time then. Yeah, and then mine will be here. I like our exam schedule a lot. Eaton is doing all 4 and all 4 there. I just think we shouldn't do 4 exams in a day because then, I mean, as it is, it's hard to do 3, I think, but at least there's a little bit of a break. You know, you've got lunch between 2 and 3, and you've got intervention between 3 and 4, so you're not going straight from test to test. I mean, I guess some people are going to 3 that early, depending on when their lunch is. Some people go straight. What?
I just go 2, then I go home, then 2, then I go home, then I go 1, 2, and go home.
Well, that's shut up. Okay, I'm gonna stop recording.